Hey, and welcome to another episode of Ben Week's Bonanza Pilot. So I'm recording this for the second time. This is our first episode of Maintenance Monday, so I want it to be right. Ran into some complications I'll talk to you about that kind of shifted the way I'm going to do this video. So I have here kind of all of my tools. Not all of them will be required. Hopefully some of them will not be required, but they might be. So I'm going to kind of talk through what we're going to do today is struts. Now this is not rebuilding struts, so we're not going to dig all the way in, take the gear off, change the inner O-rings inside the strut. That's beyond the scope of what we're doing today. This is strictly for the average pilot who has one of these Bonanzas. I'm going to show you how to service the fluid, so raise the fluid level to the top to make sure you have the correct amount of fluid. And then also show you with the strut pump how I air them up, how to kind of check the struts. So I kind of laid out all these tools. Some of them you won't need, hopefully, but we'll kind of just jump right into it.
Hello, my name is Stan. We're going to pre-flight this airplane and then we're going to take you up in the air. So sit back and fasten your seatbelt. About it. Come on, let's go flying. Okay, cut.
All right, before we get started, as any good Bonanza owner should, let's consult the maintenance manual regarding strut maintenance. Okay, I'm sure there's a huge amount of information here that's going to be super useful. Oh, let's see here. Servicing the shock struts. Are filled with MLH 5606 hydraulic fluid. Okay, compressed with dry air. Dry air, not wet air. Don't put any moisturized air in your struts. Both the main and nose gear strut. Okay, yeah, so you guys can kind of see this and read along. Hopefully that is clear. Top page. Again, hopefully you guys can read this. This is going to be for your reference. You can freeze frame this, and then, and I am actually reviewing this. I've read this, I promise, but it's been a couple weeks. So just looking back over it real quick to make sure I know what I'm doing. There's not that much to it. I mean, down to here, we're to the next thing, the shimmy dampener. So it's not a whole lot going on. So again, I don't know why we even went through all that, but this is just to show you, like, people are like, whoa, you just giving you spitballing all this stuff. Ben doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, I don't. I agree. But also, I went to the manual like we're supposed to, and they gave me jack crap worth of any information. So, you know, we're working with diddly squat here. Thanks, maintenance manual. Very helpful. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so we'll just kind of start here, work our way down. So obviously, if you are servicing the fluid in the struts, you're going to want the fluid that you put in the struts. So this is 5606A is the aviation grade or whatever. This is like it's just hydraulic fluid, guys. Don't overthink it. But 5606A is what you want to look for. You might need a lot of it. This also services your brake fluid reservoir, so you can't have you can't have too much of this fluid. This is just a pump that I got from Tractor Supply. Okay, don't overthink it. You can get cheaper stuff from Amazon. This is way more expensive than it needed to be. But this is just something that pumps fluid. You can use oil. I put hydraulic fluid in it. Use it to bleed my brakes and to put fluid in the struts. I'll show you a little bit more of a close-up here. So this is just 3/16, I believe. Whatever standard aquarium tubing is, that's what this is. And this, just that flexible hose about this long, whatever, it's like 18 inches or so, just makes it handy for getting into places. When you're getting up into the strut, you want to kind of go up through the top there. It doesn't come with this. You have to order the tubing. You can get it from Amazon, whatever, you can get it wherever. I have a little tiny hose clamp here that clamps it on because it's just super hard. The thing pops off. You'd be surprised when you're bleeding brakes how much pressure builds up when you have it stuck on the little fitting to bleed. We'll do brakes in another video here soon, but that's kind of my setup for administering the fluid. Nothing fancy, don't overthink it. I don't know what this automatic transmission fluid stop leak is doing here. This is an aircraft grade, so we definitely would not put this, it's definitely not like $8 a bottle on Amazon, and it definitely doesn't treat 10 quarts of fluid, and it definitely doesn't work exactly like Granville strut seal for half the price. So if you have struts that might be leaking a little bit of fluid and you wonder if maybe swelling your O-rings a little bit might stop that leakage so you don't have to pull the whole strut, you couldn't use this. You wouldn't, because it's not legal. So definitely don't put this into a whole jug of this 5606 hydraulic fluid, because that would not be advisable. I don't know how that got on this table. Okay, flashlight. It's dark down there. So the reason the last video turned into complete garbage was because I was doing the struts on my airplane, my Strut Bonanza that I had bought recently. I hadn't serviced the struts. They weren't low. There wasn't any problem with them at all, but I just wanted to look through them because I just hadn't checked the fluid level on them yet. And I ran into the very common problem that if you are trying to remove that top fitting, which I will show you in the B-roll footage what that fitting looks like. It's at the very top of the strut. It is a 3/4 inch wrench that you get on it to loosen the fitting. Problem is there's a plate, I don't know what it's called, but it's what the fitting threads into on the top of the strut that is just stuck in by pressure, and there's a circlip or whatever retaining clip that you pinch in, stick it in there, and it holds that plate to keep it from popping out. When those fittings are super, super tight, because people make them too tight because people are stupid, or it just takes time. I guess I shouldn't blame people. It could just be the corrosion over time or whatever. But the fitting can get stuck inside the plate that is really just technically free spinning and held up against the kind of retaining circlip thing. And so what happened to me in the last video is that I tried to loosen it, take the whole fitting off, and so that I could access the top and service the fluid like the manual says. And it just spun the entire plate. So I could not get loose. I tried, I aired up extra pressure, fully extended the strut, just anything I could try to do to build up that pressure, keep it tight enough. I hammered on it lightly on the wrench to try to get that shock to break the threads loose. Couldn't get it loose. So and I didn't have the tool, the other tool that I needed that was actually I think in my pocket somewhere, which is just this is just a valve tool, whatever, here. Super close up, maybe you can zoom in. I don't know if that's in focus. Okay, I got this from O'Reilly's, it's $2. This is just a valve core removal tool. So these struts use the exact same valve core that you would find in a car tire, essentially. It may be rated differently, I don't know. It threads in and out the same way. So what I needed that I did not have when I tried to record this before was a valve core removal tool, because if you can't get that fitting out, you're up a creek until you take the entire strut apart. I mean, you can try to mess with it. I tried using the oil to see if I could break in. I tried a bazillion things. Nothing really worked. So the only way, you're not stuck unable to fill your struts. You just have to, instead of removing the fitting the way the book says, you just have to take out the valve core. And that's why this little tube is so handy, because this little tube will fit into that valve, not the valve core. You'll remove the valve core, but it will fit into the hole where the valve core was. It'll make a mess. It's always going to make a mess. That's why you need rags. I only show one, microfiber towel, whatever your favorite rag is. Have lots of them. You will make a mess. I mean, good luck trying not to. So just have rags ready. But that's how you do it. You take the valve core out using the valve core tool. Be very careful. Bleed the pressure slowly so it doesn't blow out and bang your hand into the bottom of the wing or whatever. You take the valve core out, and then you can service the struts. So that's why I couldn't really complete the video last time. But I've got the tool. Again, all I needed to do is go swing by O'Reilly. So I have everything I need this time. And I don't even think I'm going to mess with the fitting this time. I'm just going to fill it via the valve core, because I'm not battling with that again. It was a disaster last time. Now, why does the shop manual recommend that you change the fitting? Well, there's an O-ring in the fitting that is going to be 90 million years old on all of your Bonanzas, unless you've changed it recently. I think part of the reason why those get stuck is because people just tighten them down so hard that it's probably tightened right against the plate. It's designed to not be super, super tight, because that O-ring is going to smash and make your seal. But I don't know if they just start to leak, and so if they leak out the top, how you know it's leaking out the top is that you're not losing any fluid, but your strut's going flat. That tells you if there's not fluid on the floor and you actually have fluid in your strut, then it means that the air is leaking out, the fluid is on the bottom. So that's how you know that you have a fitting problem, a leak either at the valve core, that you need to change the valve core, or you need to change your O-ring. So on my Bonanza, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to that O-ring without taking the strut completely off, which can be such a pain. But right now it's not leaking, so it's okay. I can service those And I will service them, just removing the valve core, making sure I think they've got plenty of fluid. They're not. Another way to know if your strut is running low on fluid, because you can fill it with air and it will stay up even if you don't have the right amount of fluid. How do you know if you're out of fluid? It's really bouncy. So air will be extremely bouncy, and you can, we've had a dad's airplane back when we first got it running. We had a bad strut that we had to reseal, but we kind of limped along just with air. I don't even think we put fluid in it. I think we did put fluid in it, but it was leaking. It leaked out so fast that you end up with just nothing but air, and it just bounces. So when you're taxiing, you hit a little bump, it's just so if you like go up to your wing and you like shake it and it like bounces really easy, it's like it's elastic, like a spring is in there, that tells you that you don't have fluid in your strut. If you go to do that and it's like you lift it, and it lifts slow, and then it like comes down slow, and there's, just like if like any strut, when you open like the back hatch on a car, notice how there's like resistance both ways. That's how the wing should feel when you raise and lower it when you're lifting on the end. That tells you if you're out of, that's just it. Or you can check it. I'll show you how to check it. It's pretty easy. But that's kind of a hack if you want to know how whether your strut is low. So I originally last time used the jack, a wing jack. You're supposed to use a wing jack. That's how the manual says to do it. I realize that not everybody has access to a wing jack, or maybe your hangar neighbor has it or whatever. You don't want to bother them. So what if you want to fill your strut and you don't want to bother messing with jacks? Plus, jacking an airplane is dangerous. Okay, not dangerous. Well, it can be dangerous to your health if something collapses on you. What's more dangerous is there's a danger of the airplane falling off the jack, something rolling forward, whatever. So if you can do it without jacks, it's way better. With this pump, okay, you don't need jacks. Okay, I'm going to show you how. So the manual says to jack up the airplane, release the pressure on the strut, then jack it, lower it with a jack until you have like an inch of strut showing. Fill it with fluid, and then lower it all the way to flat. And then that pump pushes out a little bit of fluid, and then you're topped off. That makes a mess. It ensures that you're topped off. There's absolutely no reason you can't just go completely flat. So what we're gonna do today, is we're gonna do a servicing of the struts with no jacks or anything. Okay, it's the safest way to do it. You're gonna not spill as much fluid, and it's gonna work beautifully, okay? And you're gonna find that there's no issue. There's absolutely no reason to use a jack when you're servicing to the level that we're servicing them today. So what we're gonna do, instead of using that 1/2 inch, we're just gonna go completely flat. It's probably gonna shoot up some fluid. This may not be that low on fluid, but we're gonna, whatever, go totally flat. We're gonna fill it with this. We're gonna take the valve core out very carefully, bleeding the pressure. We're gonna let it go all the way to flat. Take the valve core out, set it aside carefully. We're gonna take our administrative container here, administer fluid into that valve. I want to say valve stem, I guess. It doesn't have I want to call it a valve core, but the valve core is what comes out of it. So just the valve, we're going to pour it in the top of the valve until it starts to overflow. Once it starts to overflow, we're going to clean up the mess. We're going to put the valve stem back in, and we're going to air up with this pump until it gets to the level we want. I'll show you guys how that works. 7/16 is going to be for I mentioned the O-ring on the fittings on the mains. The nose gear actually has it should have, in fact it needs to have, like a brass or an aluminum crush washer that is actually, you're going to thread that. You have to go pretty tight, so if you don't do it too tight, in fact when I did it on my airplane, I didn't have it tight enough. It actually overnight leaked down on me. I had to tighten it some more, so go pretty tight when you're tightening back in, because it's just tightening a crush washer up against the strut bore. The strut on the nose is going out so if the strut is vertical, it's actually going out horizontal, versus the mains, the valve is up in the top. But 3/8, the only reason you have a 3/8 inch wrench is for taking the cover. There's a little cap on the valve. That's for undoing the cap on the valve. Some don't have it. They should all have it just so it doesn't get dirt and debris in it, just like a car. And then 7/16 is for taking the fitting off of the nose, only the nose. Okay, I think that's kind of everything. Real quickly, you'll notice you may not recognize this airplane. This is a temporary into the Bonanza clinic, whatever. It's here visiting. This is Mark's airplane. He bought it. He's a student pilot. He's gonna come fly with me. That'll actually be a video. I think I'm gonna show you guys how easy it is to teach a 2-hour student pilot how to fly Bonanza. Talk about cart before the horse. He's very excited. It's a really good airplane. So it's here visiting. He's gonna fly with me, and then eventually we're gonna get it down to him in Arizona. But this is a perfect example. Okay, that's what I was gonna talk about. This isn't a bin rant, but it sort of is. people talk about why would you need to, why would you even need a pump? Okay, I just talk like, you'll hear so much talk about how fantastic these pumps are. They're linked in the Tool Tuesday that I already mentioned before. Go watch that Tool Tuesday video, go in the description and order this off of Amazon if you've got like 60, 70 bucks to get the whole setup, because it is phenomenal. But people are like, why would I need this? Like, why would I even need to throw this in my baggage compartment? That's like an extra 8 pounds that I don't even need. Because it's awesome, and they're like, well, my struts are, why don't you just rebuild your struts and they won't leak? Okay, whatever. All of these airplanes, okay, there's like 6 or 7 airplanes, Bonanzas that we service, plus ones that come in from all around that need annuals done and whatever. Almost every single one that comes in, almost without exception, every single Bonanza that comes in at least has one strut that isn't at the perfect level, or they're abnormal or whatever. Like, it's so handy to just be able to air this up. Plus, you know, when was the last time you checked your fluid? You know, you think, oh, whatever, I had them rebuilt 5 years ago, and you're fine. Well, have you checked your fluid in 5 years? You should check it at annual, whatever. Having this makes it so handy. And then you're not worrying, and like the stuff we do off airport, you need to have your struts aired up potentially a little bit higher, even than the manual says. It just you don't want to go crazy with it, but just having that little extra makes it stand a little prouder, a little more ground clearance between your gear doors and whatever things, you know, in a field that you're running into. So that's why, again, I don't know if that really made any sense, but what I was getting at is this airplane is just visiting. This is not our airplane. We're just caretaking it for a little bit, and the struts haven't been serviced, and the nose strut is low. The mains are okay, but they're actually a little low for what I like to do for the off-airport stuff that we do. So this is a perfect example of go check your struts, and maybe they're fine. I hope they're fine. I don't wish bad struts on anyone. But from what I've seen, almost all the Bonanzas could use a little bit of strut maintenance. So that is why I justify the $70 or whatever it costs to get a strut pump that you can just throw in your baggage or keep in your car that you drive to the airport and just always have it when you need it. Especially in this cold weather, I've found, you know, what looks good in the summertime, once it gets cold, everything compresses or, you know, contracts, and then seals start leaking, whatever. So I don't know why I need to argue for why strut maintenance and having a strut pump that's super cheap and easy to use, but I do, so whatever. There you have it. I've already rambled on. This is probably going to get cut down really short because you guys don't care about my rants. But that's that. Okay, let's get into it. Okay guys, so I have the tools, all the tools I really need. I don't need this right now, but I got my strut pump with my hose. Got my flashlight, because you're not really be able to see up there. I will eventually get some footage that shows kind of what we're working with, but most of it you're working kind of without being able to see. Got my valve core removal tool, because that's going to be very important. And I've got my 3/8, which first step is going to be to take off it's a 3/8. If it has the fitting that should be on there, it's going to be a 3/8 that is probably tight enough that you will require 3/8 wrench to get it off. You'll notice all the mud in the gear well. That is the price you pay for doing off-airport stuff, part of it. There is the valve core cap, the valve cap, whatever you want to call it. Set that aside. So now we've got access to the valve core. There's a spring there, it's in the way. So we're gonna be careful about that. We're just gonna go on top. You want something small. I know they have different ones like handles and stuff. Using this tiny one is gonna be the best because it's gonna allow me to get up in there. It's kind of tight quarters up there. Right now on this, we've got about 4 inches of strut, which is really perfect. It's actually at a good level. Just for the sake of argument, we're gonna check it anyway. So I'm very carefully, I am now on the valve core. I'm going to very gently, lefty-loosey. So I think I'm on it. Okay, so it goes really quick. This is the part you have to be kind of careful with. I'm going to very carefully let it loose until it goes flat. You might have to kick it a little bit. At this point, I'm losing fluid. So that tells me that we're pretty much there. So maybe without, oh no, I'm making a mess already. Oh no. Okay, let me go get more rags. Oh no. Did I not tell you guys that rags was key? You got like so many rags. So I can tell you right now that this one is going to not need any fluid.
What was the matter, Mr. Allnut?
Feed pump full of scum and rust. She gets clogged up. Kick it and starts it working again. I gotta act fast because one of my boys dropped a screwdriver down the safety valve.
What would happen if you didn't kick her?
Whole boiler'd blow up.
Why don't you dismantle the safety valve and remove the screwdriver?
You know, I'm gonna do that one of these days. The only reason I ain't done it up to now is that I kind of like kicking her. She's all I've got.
It's clearly topped off. This thing has been serviced. Go down. Go down. Okay, it's being a little stubborn about that last little bit. There it goes. Guess you could also bleed it first. Reality is I could have just done, I think one of these works as a bleeder, yeah. So I didn't really think that through. But you know what, that's the way it goes. You know, it's just aviation maintenance. It's not a big deal. Like if you think it through or do it right, it's not a big deal at all. Ah! Oh yeah, okay, so it takes a lot of turns. But it came out. I wouldn't say this is exactly like a car tire. It's probably a little different, but whatever, it is what it is. So that's that. Set that aside where you're not going to step on it or damage it. Oh. Yeah, so I just like randomly lost my tool. The house when there's mud all over everything. It's winter time. It's very muddy here on the Ponderosa. So you couldn't just not fly until summertime, or you can clean your landing gear when it gets dirty. Mark is going to see this and he's like, what happened to my landing gear, bro? I'm like, sorry, I used it. Okay, so now that we have it empty, and this is going to be literally just an example because I know I'm going to pump it and it's immediately going to overflow, but say that you had low strut fluid. You would be able to fill it. So I'm going to find that little cap. It's probably because of that stupid screw that was in it. It's probably going to be too big to fit. Yeah. So it's not perfect, but essentially what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick that in there and let it go to right about there. I am overflowing. Yeah. So, okay. So top off, it's that easy, it's that simple. Nothing to it, easy peasy. I'm gonna tuck that back in so that hopefully it doesn't leak everywhere. And yes, did it make a mess? It absolutely did. And if you know a way to not make a mess, then you're better than I am. So all we do now, take our little valve core, make sure it's clean, no dirt, no grime. Don't get any grime from your landing gear when you're putting it in. And then just start that bad boy tightening in. And take your handy dandy valve core removal tool. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so now that I've tightened it in, make sure it's good and tight. All I have to do now is air up the strut. Okay, so got our little threaded fitting here that's going to go onto the valve threads, just like if you were airing up a car tire essentially. And then I'm going to put on my extended line this way. Again, you need this braid, all this braided is extra line that you need to make it easily accessible to get out. And then you're just going to pop this in. You got your desiccant filter, make sure it's dry air. This is going to soak up all the moisture in the air. Although it's winter time, there really is not much moisture in the air, unless it's snowing. Pop that on there. Oh, on easy. Okay, so that's popped on. And then pop this little guy on here. Shabam shaboom. And then you pump until it gets aired up enough. Okay, so I'll reposition you guys so you can see. So make sure the bleeder valve is tight. It's gonna take a little bit to pressurize the system. Once you start hearing it going in the valve, then I mentioned like 3 or 4 pumps in this wrap-up video. I was lying, or 6 pumps. It's like 10 to 15 from dead flat, if not 20. But it's not hard. I mean, this is barely any pressure at all. So it's rising a little bit. Once you see it move, we've got the wing. I'll show you where to do it. I'm gonna shake it a little bit. It's still fairly low. But now we've got about an inch of strut showing. So now I'm gonna do like 4 more pumps, 2, 3, 4. See it bobbed again. These can bind up, so make sure you check it every like 4 pumps or so. Now we rock the wing again. And now we do about 4 more pumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. That time it didn't move, so maybe it was binding. Rock the wing. Now we're at about 4-ish inches. Not even, we're at like 3 inches, so 4 more pumps. 2, 3, 4. One thing to keep in mind is every time the strut raises, it's gonna lower that pressure. So you think like, oh my goodness, I pumped it up to 400 PSI. Once that pops up, it's gonna reduce down to 300 PSI or whatever, because as your volume increases, your pressure decreases. It's something physics related that's beyond my understanding. So that's why it takes more pumps than you think it would. So that was 4 pumps, let's rock the wing. And now we're sitting at about almost 4 inches, kind of where it was before. One thing to keep in mind, I'm gonna check where the fuel level is. You want to pump it to about the minimum level you're happy with full fuel in each wing. And this is topped off in this right tank, so I know that I'm gonna go maybe 2 more pumps, 2 or 3 more pumps, and then call that good. And then just know that it's gonna get a little higher as the fuel level gets lower. We'll do 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, then one last shake. And that is pretty much perfect, even a little bit high, but it's warmer in here. I have it about 50 degrees. So once that gets out in the cold, that's gonna shrink down a little bit. So I like where that's at. That's maybe 5 inches. Also, once people step on the wing, especially the right wing, it's gonna compress down a little bit. So I'm not worried about that. Worst case, I let out just a tiny bit of air pressure. Okay, so to disconnect it, first I do, hopefully you guys can see this. First I do the bleeder. Bleed off the pressure. That way, when I go to take it off at the strut, it is not popping off and damaging something or whatever. Just makes it come off very easily. Okay, so that's ready for the next strut. Don't forget your fitting. I always put, this is such an easy to lose fitting. I pop this right into the hose so I don't lose it. Okay, last thing, take your cap, put it back in. And that's literally all there is to it for a main strut, okay? Again, you could take the fitting off. You wanna use a 3/4 inch wrench and try to take the fitting off and change your O-ring. Good luck. This is gonna be the easier method, and you can wait on the O-ring until it either leaks or until you have the strut off for some other reason to reseal it or whatever, and then that would give you an opportunity to change that O-ring. But the O-ring is gonna get old. I don't know what size O-ring. I wish I could tell you what size it is. I would just eyeball it, get an O-ring kit off of Amazon or whatever. And that's SAE, American Standard or whatever size. Okay, and that's that. I'm not gonna show you the other one because it's the same as this one. It's the left one. I'll do that one another time. We're gonna jump to the nose strut, and that's a little bit different, but just kind of the same principle. And that'll be that. Okay, only difference between the mains and doing this one is that you're going to use a 7/16 wrench to take the fitting off. Otherwise, it's going to be the same process. We're going to take this completely empty. You'll notice this strut, I mean, this is where it's sitting. It needed to be, this nose strut was low. I was going to have to service it anyways. It's always hard to tell if you're leaking fluid out of these nose struts because they fully extend when the gear is retracted. Just the pressure of the strut goes full extension, and then it folds up into this gear well. Well, then your engine oil, because almost all of these are leaking some amount of oil out of various places in the engine. It's just the nature. Think of an E-series engine like a radial engine. If it's not leaking oil, it might be out of oil. What's funny is this one is actually seals up pretty well. There's a little bit of drippage, but not much compared to other engines. So congratulations, Mark. You have one of the less leaky engines. But because of the oil that's constantly leaking, you'll see just fluid on your strut. Don't necessarily assume right away that that's strut fluid. It could very well just be engine oil. It all turns kind of the same color. Even though it's red fluid that comes out of the strut, you'll all know that for some reason when it comes out dirty and brown. You know, it's supposed to be red. So differentiating between engine oil and strut fluid, 5606 strut fluid is not easy to do. Okay, so the way I empty out the pressure on this is going to be very simple. I'm literally just going to take, I'm not even going to take that cap off for now. Actually, no, I am. Never mind, that's stupid. Take the cap off first. Otherwise, you're going to have a terrible time getting it loose whenever you take the fitting out. So just loosen that bad boy. Sorry about the smoke. It's a little bit chilly in here. What in the world? Is that not 3/8? How am I encountering problems already? Oh. It's weird. This fitting is, or this cap is seemingly a different size. Yeah, okay, so this cap is, you'll see it's slightly different than the yellow ones from the mains. Maybe it's 7/16. That would be weird. It ain't 7/16. What in the world? Is it not 3/8? No, this is some magic bonus size that is clearly metric because it's 7/16. It's too big. So again, talk about just the random things you find on these airplanes for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. I've seen tire caps, like literally it's to keep the dirt out. It's not keeping pressure. If your Schrader valve goes bad, then you're going to lose fluid at your Schrader. You can change the Schrader valve. These are not supposed to be the end-all be-all to sealing your strut. Okay, so now you got that off, we're going to take a 7/16 wrench. Again, I'm not showing you like me actually turning the stuff. It's just annoying to get a camera up in there, so you're just going to have to watch me do it, or we'll just skip to when it's done. But in this case, I am going to show you, I'm going to use the box end, the closed end of the wrench. I'm going to very carefully go lefty-loosey. And these should be very tight. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so now I see, like I hear the air leaking out. You might hear it as well. Busted my finger, that's just the way it goes. And boom, we're flat. So I'm going to still let that pressure bleed out. And it's going to probably start bubbling at the end instead of whistling, and that tells me that I'm down to fluid. Or if it's low on fluid, there will be no bubbling, which tells me it's low on fluid. You notice I put a bunch of rags down here. It's because it's going to drip onto the tire first and then down here. So I'm going to try to catch that mess, and then I save one rag for my hands and for other miscellaneous things. So interestingly, that did not gurgle, which tells me maybe it's low on fluid. Now, if it is low on fluid, you have the option of rebuilding the strut, or you could put Granville strut seal only, not ATF stop leak. Definitely only use Granville strut seal because that's approved for aircraft and more expensive. But maybe put Granville strut seal in your fluid and then see if you can swell up those O-rings. And if that doesn't work, you can just pump them until the day you die. And if it leaks down, and if it takes a week for it to leak down, then with this pump, I'd be tempted just to service it every week. Because it's just a pain to pull the struts, but eventually you can pull the struts and rebuild them. We will do that in a video. We have some struts we could rebuild. Show you guys how to do that. It ain't a fun job. Spoiler alert, it's not fun, but it can be done. All these things can be done. They need to be done eventually. Okay, so now that I have it loose, I'm to show you guys how it looks. Okay. Does this not... okay. It's kind of a weird way that this is set up. There does not... okay. So this one doesn't have like a loose crush washer. The washer is like stuck. It may just have to be pried loose. It looks like it's smashed on. But you can see, hopefully you guys can see in the footage there, this is the Schrader valve part that this is what you would attach your strut pump to. This is the part that sticks into the strut. The Schrader valve is in there. And then this right here, this little lip, there's like part of the nut, that is the crush washer. This appears to be aluminum. Sometimes it's brass. And it looks like it's like stuck to the, like the nut or bolt or whatever part of it. It's okay. I mean, as long as it's still soft enough, which it appears to be, it's kind of, I can see how it's deformed. It's okay. You can, as long as it crushes enough to really tighten up against, that's the seal. So I've tried using O-rings because it just seems like it's the wrong way to seal it like this, but the O-rings do not work. You have to use a brass or aluminum crush washer. But again, this opens up, you can see it opens up a pretty good sized hole, which makes it really easy to service. I'm curious to see how much fluid this takes. My airplane, when I did the nose, did not. It was full on fluid. This one, it never gurgled when it was letting the pressure out, which tells me that it might need a little bit more fluid than I thought. So we're just going to go until, and I'm just going to slowly pump until I get, there's some gurgling. And going a little extra, so I'm making a little bit of a mess just because I want to make sure that for sure okay, that was probably way more than I needed, but you know, a mess is a mess. Now I'm going to kind of clean, make sure this is all clean, that there's no debris or anything in my fitting, and then we just thread it back in. Thread in by hand all the way until you get to the point where you have to really torque it tight. And again, if you don't tighten this enough, it will leak down. You won't see any fluid. You will just see that your strut gets low like overnight. So you got to get on it pretty good. This is a pretty short wrench, so I'm not going to be able to put a crazy amount of torque. You don't want it to slip off. It's a little bit tricky to get on there. So don't strip your fitting. I don't even know where I'm sure you can find replacements somewhere, but I would rather not have to look for one of these fittings to go into the strut. Probably have to call one of the strut overhauling companies to get that done. So now it's tight and it pops off really easy. So I have to make sure it's squared. I actually have to kind of hold it with my right hand and then tighten it with the other, and that's just wanting to pop off. So I'm switching to my open end. I can get a better, because of how it's kind of recessed into the strut, it's very easy for it to pop off, which I don't love, but it's just the way it is. So I'm gonna hold it tight, brace my head against the fuselage, use that for leverage, my bonehead. And use my idiot strength. Okay. Hopefully that's tight enough. And again, the big key, you can put a lot of torque on it, just don't pop off or round off that nut on there. Okay, so hopefully that's tight enough. I'll know in the morning if it leaks back down that it wasn't tight enough. I'll have to get back on it maybe with a longer wrench than this because this was kind of small. But now we're ready. Again, we're just back to using the strut pump. So again, just make sure your fitting is tight. The nose strut takes less pressure than the mains, so don't go crazy with it. Okay, so there, and I can tell you right now it didn't move. So that was like 5 pumps. 2, 3, 4, 5 pumps. Okay, still didn't do anything. We go 4 more. 1, 2. There. Okay, so now it moved. Once it moves, I like to lift up at the base of the blades. It's easy to over inflate this one. It's kind of where it sits right now. I like to put weight down and see where it sits, like at the minimum. I like to have like a minimum of 2 inches. So when I put all my weight on it, I want that to be compressed down to 2 inches and not go any further. That kind of, I worry more about that than how high it sits, because of this, how high it sits will really depend on what you have in the baggage, like what your CG is. So I like to look at a minimum down with weight on it versus a maximum up height. But it's not there yet, so we're gonna go more. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're getting there. And again, it's sitting at this level. We don't really know what that means. It could sit up here if you had a bunch of weight in the baggage. If you have a bunch of fuel and people up front, it's gonna sit down there. What I care about is with my weight on it, how low does it go? About 2 inches. So this is really pretty much sufficient. I'm not gonna go much higher than that. That is higher than probably recommended, but with what we do, I could even live with it a little higher. But again, if I put a bunch of junk, I think right now the baggage is empty. That would explain why it's kind of nose heavy right now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There you have it, guys. All right, there you have it, guys. I hope that was helpful. There is episode 1 of Maintenance Monday, just servicing the struts. It's really not that hard, not that complicated. Again, all the things you need and a bunch of extra junk that we didn't use all fits on a little 2x3 table. Not a whole lot of things. These are items you probably already have in your hangar or can easily acquire. They're going to be useful for other tasks besides just the struts, things like brakes and whatnot. So there you have it. I hope you appreciate the video. If you do, like and subscribe to the channel. We've got big things coming. I think next video, I'm not exactly sure what the next video will be. I know the next Maintenance Monday video will be on struts. The Maintenance Monday videos will not be every single Monday. It's going to be every Monday that there's not another video is the plan. My New Year's resolution is to post a video weekly. That has not happened because you may have seen my community post where I had a viral illness that led to some diarrhea that actually had a vasovagal response, and I passed out and busted my teeth up. You may see it's all jagged there. Busted it out, actually had the tooth lodged in my lip for about a week and a half. So I might share that picture, not that you guys probably want that information, but been a little difficult week. So it's been a couple weeks since I was supposed to have this posted 2 weeks ago and I didn't get it done. So hopefully this is the end of the weirdness, and from here on I'm gonna try to post weekly. No guarantees, but YouTube tends to reward consistency. I've got big things coming for the channel, some things you guys are really gonna be interested in, especially if you are E-series Bonanza owners or interested in becoming E-series Bonanza owners, but we have some very cool things coming up for the channel. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week on either the next Maintenance Monday, which would be brakes, or if it's some other video, which I think it's gonna be another video. I haven't really decided yet. I don't think that far ahead. So anyways, thanks a lot, guys. And no rant today. I guess my rant was about why you should have a strut pump. We'll save my bin rant, which I have one. I'm so tempted to do it now. I have a rant I'm gonna do for next week's video. About some things. Otherwise, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, real quickly, guys, before I go, I did want to tell you too, I didn't mention this before, stuff like this, like doing the struts, I am 27 years old. I've been working on these airplanes now, flying them for, I think 8 years now, going 8 years, so it's been a little bit, but I still have so much to learn. So if I'm doing things incorrectly or whatever, if it's just a different way that you guys do it, you guys don't have to make a big deal about it. But if you guys have tips and tricks that I didn't mention, again, I have so much more to learn on these Bonanzas. Share that with me, okay? Share that with the community. People are looking. This is not your average like entertaining video. Let's go fly, do something fun. This is actually more of just like nitty gritty maintenance stuff. So the people that are looking at these videos are interested in maintenance things. So if you guys have maintenance tricks, tips and tricks related to struts or information that I didn't share, comment that down below. And let's make this a very valuable resource to people that hopefully across the years that are interested in servicing struts or whatever, they can reference this video. So I'm hoping that Maintenance Monday across time will be a really valuable resource, a playlist on my channel that people can use to build their own maintenance knowledge and help making, maintaining these airplanes, these old airplanes, that much easier or more organized. So again, we're all part of this community, and you guys are fantastic, my viewers and subscribers. You guys know a lot more than I do in most cases, so and sometimes you don't, but a lot of you are, will forget more about bonanzas than I'll ever know. So share information, tips and tricks, not just for my benefit, but for everyone who watches the video. So sorry, I meant to throw that in earlier and I didn't. So see you guys in the next one. Peace out.